of the 2024 NFL Draft is in the books. The Cleveland Browns did not make a selection. Many teams did. We're going to have thoughts on that, Browns thoughts, all that and more. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Jeff Floyd, and I appreciate you all for making Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd just keeps piling up. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel and join in on the fun. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it. I have a competitive side, and I am a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. How is everybody? Round one in the books. Please bear with me. Allergies are killing my eyes. Very difficult to read today, but we got work to do. Round one went off, and it went off hard. I don't think anybody was expecting 6 quarterbacks to go in the first 12 picks. I believe the over-under on quarterbacks going in round one was 4.5. I honestly thought you were going to get all of the 6 of these quarterbacks to go in round one. I'm stunned that was within the first 12 selections. Other things that did surprise me was there was not a trade until pick 10. So the Bears stuck Caleb Williams, we knew. Washington, Jaden Daniels, we knew. Patriots, there was a lot of wondering about what New England was going to do. New regime starting in New England after all these years. They hold tight, take Drake May, and hopefully that becomes part of the, Gerard Mayo, Drake May, and trying to erase the Belichick era and creating their own era up in New England. Marvin Harrison Jr. to Arizona. Look, the talk of, well, Marvin wasn't doing that. Marvin Harrison did the process the way Marvin Harrison wanted to do the process. He came into this college season in 2023 as the number 1 overall wide receiver prospect. That is the way he ended up going number 4 overall to the Arizona Cardinals. The Chargers stick put. I mean, for me, if I'm the Chargers, maybe they try to trade out, get somebody to come up. But if you wanted to go tackle, there was no reason you had to stay at 5 and go tackle. They do Joe Alt Foundation. We know the way Jim Harbaugh plays football. All you Browns fans, Ohio State fans saw the way Michigan did things. They are not going modern day. They're going more old school power, good defense, run the ball. And that is what Harbaugh is looking to do. And certainly, protecting Justin Herbert is not a terrible idea either. Malik Neighbors to the New York Giants. I got Malik Neighbors, a lot of highlights certainly kind of give me an Odell feel to it. He's just got that smoothness to him. But Malik Neighbors, maybe Daniel Jones can resurrect and prove he was ever worth that extension. Titans, it kind of got tough for the Titans because a lot of people believed it was going to be either a Neighbors or a Joe Alt. Both those players go the 2 selections before. J.C. Latham. Look, the Titans' offensive line was bad last year. Part of the reason they wanted, obviously, Bill Callahan to come with his son, Brian Callahan, to be the offensive line coach was to get it better. J.C. Latham is certainly a nice starting piece there. The Penix pick to the Falcons, we'll get to that in a minute. Romadune UZA, Caleb Williams to the Bears. That just absolutely is going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing. I think the Bears finally taking a corner. First trade, Minnesota goes up from 11 to 10 with the New York Jets. They get their guy all along, J.J. McCarthy. Nice night for the Vikings, as we'll talk about them in a second. Jets move back to 11. Alamu Fashanu, another guy was talked about and heralded for this entire draft, ends up going 11 overall to the New York Jets. Smart move by the Jets. A lot of people said the Jets needed more skill, and they probably do. But you needed to resurrect that offensive line, your 2 offensive line. Your starting tackles combined age is like 64, 65 years old. They needed a new buck in that room, and they hopefully have that guy. Can maybe be the next DeBrickshaw Ferguson for that team. Bo Nix, 12 to the Broncos. Is what it is, I guess. Denver, you're just trying to now. It was a weird situation, obviously, with the Russell Wilson thing, bringing in Peyton, all of that. But now Peyton's starting to get his stamp on the team. Raiders, maybe thinking they were getting Michael Penix, Brock Bowers, Michael Meyer, and nice, really, really nice tight end room. We'll see how the Raiders put that to use. Fuaga goes to the Saints. Saints had obviously serious issues on the offensive line. Latu goes to the Colts. The question is all medicals, stuff that we're all not privy to. If he was truly that neck issue he had early in his college career is completely behind him. Nice pick for the obviously for the Indianapolis Colts. Byron Murphy, defensive tackle, goes up to Seattle. Dallas Turner, Minnesota trades up again. Minnesota traded up twice last night in round one. Did not give up their 2025 first round pick. Quessy, nice job. Obviously was a great student with Andrew Berry over the years. Amaris Mims to the Cincinnati Bengals. Absolutely looks like the Incredible Hulk. And when he plays, he's pretty good. Doesn't play often, doesn't finish games, does not have a lot of college reps, but it shows you the importance of offensive line play. And in the AFC North, you got to block Myles Garrett 30, 40 times a game. You need bodies. Jared Verse, first pick for the Los Angeles Rams in round one in a very long time. Player I liked. Rams, it's going to be a transitional year for that defense. Obviously, you lose the greatness of Aaron Donald. Jared Verse is not going to bring all that back in one shot, but certainly a nice piece for a team that is trying to reinvent itself. Troy Fontenot, talk of whether or not he's a guard, he's a tackle. Most likely he's obviously going to be a tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, emphasis on we have to stop Myles Garrett. Chop Robinson goes to the Dolphins. Quinyon Mitchell, local kid, obviously, for the Cleveland folks, off to the Philadelphia Eagles. Brian Thomas Jr., LSU, goes to Jacksonville. Detroit just gets a gift. Terrion Arnold. Their offense was good last year. Probably needed more pieces on defense to be true contenders and try to get back to that NFC Championship game. Great selection for them. Jordan Morgan, Arizona, big dancing bear left tackle, probably needs some functional strength, but time will tell. Graham Barton, most likely going to be the starting center now for Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay. Darius Robinson, edge, so a nice pieces for Arizona. You get yourself a nice wide receiver, certainly in Marvin Harrison Jr. You get yourself an edge in Darius Robinson. Chiefs move up. Buffalo, let it happen. Xavier Worthy, we all probably talked about this since the combine. Xavier Worthy just seemed like an absolute another remote control car for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Tyler Guyton, Cowboys need help on the offensive line, and Tyler Guyton is the one they select. Ravens could have gone offensive line. Ravens certainly needed help in the secondary. They go Nate Wiggins, cornerback out of Clemson University. We'll get to see, obviously, Mr. Wiggins up close, personal twice a year. Then it got a little crazy towards the end. Ricky Pearsall, as we all know, nice prospect, a little bit of an older prospect, wide receiver position, goes to the San Francisco 49ers. Makes a lot of questions what's going to happen here in day two. You do have Debo. You certainly have Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk, in my opinion, if he was going to be traded, would have been a guy that could have been tradable for a round one asset last night. Maybe do they tip the scales? Maybe do they put Debo Samuel on the market? Maybe Debo Samuel could be somewhere here in the first 10 picks on day two where Debo Samuel maybe moves on. We'll see. Maybe they keep all three. You have Kittle. Obviously, you have McCaffrey. You have Brock Purdy. San Francisco, it's a hell of an offensive unit. Even if they make a move, it's still a hell of an offensive unit, but they still could make a move. Close it out. I guess Carolina felt the fifth-year option on Xavier Leggett was important, so they move up one spot. They acquire Xavier Leggett. I actually like that for Bryce Young. I like that for the Carolina Panthers. You have, of course, Deontay Johnson. You have, of course, the holdover from the Minnesota Vikings all those years, who was now there with the wide receiver room. You bring in Leggett, the long, big play type of guy. Interesting round one. We're going to get to some of the lowlights of round one. We're going to talk about how all of this influences the Cleveland Browns as they get ready here to get into the action on Friday night. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Appreciate everybody for being along for the ride. Guys, I need you all to listen up for this huge announcement. I have been tracking the leaderboards every day, keeping my eye on the scores, putting all my heart into it, and I'm super pumped to announce I am finally on top. That's right. Obviously, I'm talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great mobile twist on classic Monopoly. You can play anywhere, anytime. You explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Las Vegas to Camelot to the moon, all while raking in a huge fortune. Charge rent on iconic properties just like classic Monopoly. You can charge your friends rent on iconic properties or go after their Monopoly money bank by pulling bank heists and taking wrecking balls to their landmarks. But my favorite part is the leaderboards, where you can see who's a Monopoly tycoon and who's gone bankrupt. So go get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store and Google Play. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Rolling on your latest Locked On Browns. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. Of course, we appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, if you're not part of it by now, make a new plan, stand, subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It's always free. Wherever you get your podcast. Round 1, 2024 NFL Draft is in the books. Cleveland Browns with no first round pick did not trade up. Browns hopefully back to first round action in 2025, but plenty to do here still as day 2 kicks off on Monday night. Some of the surprises from round 1 and some of the things that are certainly a question mark, and you're right to pick 8. Now, the Atlanta Falcons and their courtship and possible tampering, let's be honest, with Kirk Cousins. The Falcons knew they held selection number 8 in this draft. They wanted if they wanted a quarterback, they were in. There was nothing holding them back. So you make the acquisition, you pay all of this money to Kirk Cousins, and God bless Kirk Cousins. Hey, you got the bag, you earned it. Good for Kirk Cousins. But you follow that up, what do we say, 5-6 weeks later, and you draft Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington. I am not knocking Michael Penix Jr. in any way whatsoever. I just don't understand the move. And then you double down by saying, hey, he could sit for 4 or 5 years. Then what did you just do? You had the pieces on offense. You thought you were quarterback away. Pitts, London, Bijan Robinson. We didn't have the quarterback. You got the quarterback. You went out and got Kirk Cousins. You got the quarterback. So this, to me, seemed like such a slam dunk selection of a defensive player, even moving down to still get a defensive player. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. How does Michael Penix, and even if you think he has flaws and he's not NFL ready right now, not ready today, well, you got to work through those things on the field, in games, by playing the game. And he's not going to get that opportunity because you have Kirk Cousins there, who's making an ungodly amount of money. Kirk Cousins apparently is already a little confused about the move. Hell, Kirk, we're all with you. We're all confused by the move. I do not know what the Atlanta Falcons were thinking last night. I like Michael Penix. And the thing with some people see the film and say, well, these receivers are bailing him out. I watch Michael Penix play and I say, here's a guy who's playing with pro talent, with Roma Dunzier, with Jalen Polk, with Jalen McMillan. They're all pros. They're all going to be successful in the NFL. So to pick and choose who's the ones that look good as far as the NFL goes and the ones that don't, I like Michael Penix. Do I think he was worthy of the number 8 overall pick? No. Do I think we're maybe never going to get to know who truly Michael Penix is? That's another possibility as well. And then the other thought process to this, and this is something that just kind of came to me, is if you remember years ago, the Atlanta Falcons had this young left-handed quarterback named Michael Vick and had a reserve quarterback named Matt Schaub. And eventually Matt Schaub got some playing time, and eventually Matt Schaub got moved for a lot more capital. Is this something where the Falcons are bringing in Michael Penix now with the thought process of maybe moving him in a season or two and trying to get a return on that investment? Again, I'd love to know what Atlanta was thinking because I'm still head scratched about it. Bo Nix to Denver. I mean, I get why you made the move. Do I know if it's going to pan out? Am I sure if it's going to pan out? I don't know. I mean, you just traded away Jerry Jeudy. For me, I would have kept Jerry Jeudy if I was going to go quarterback. Who's he going to throw to? People are still trying to get Cortland Sutton out of there. I pray to God for Bo Nix that they're not going to get rid of Cortland Sutton because you got to have something for the young man to work with. The Saints with the offensive line made sense. The Raiders, I think the Raiders really wanted a quarterback, and the Raiders basically were there in a game of musical chairs and the Raiders just got blocked out, and there was no chance for them to do anything about it. So here the Raiders sit with Brock Bowers and, obviously, of course, Devontae Adams and, Mike Mayer. They've got some nice players in there in Vegas. I'm just not really sure how it's all going to work out. Aiden O'Connell could be a really, really maybe medium level quarterback, quality starter. We'll see. But for the Raiders, not too sure. Now, Amaris Mims to the Bengals. See, this is the problem I have with the Bengals. And with this selection is this is a bit of a gamble at 18 overall. And Cincinnati, and with the situation they're in, where they can draft well, but it's most likely going to be 4 or 5 years and the young man is gone, because they're just not a team that can be in a position to financially compete with a lot of other teams within the NFL. So Amarius Mims, with his question marks, of course, and not have played a ton of time, and then he's supposed to be this big athletic wonder, which he is, but we never really got to see any of it. So for the Bengals, there's a little bit of a gamble in selection of a player like Amarius Mims. So I just don't know if the Bengals were the right team to make that gamble. Granted, he would technically not be slated to start right away as a rookie, which, again, you need some bodies in there. You need some players in there right away if you're the Bengals. So you drafted an offensive tackle at 18 who could be a fantastic player one day, but he might not start week 1. And he has question marks, a lot of question marks about his health, about how much he has played, about how does that now translate where he's going to be expected to play 600, 700 reps a season. Not sure. Would they have been better off going with a Jordan Morgan from Arizona? Would they have been better off going Tyler Guyton? Just interesting from that standpoint for me. I don't think the Dolphins had a choice. Even if you're not a huge fan of Chop Robinson, the Dolphins have had a lot of attrition at the edge position. That and they're going to get some of these guys back, but first year back, what are you going to get from them? How much are they going to be able to give you? They're hurt and they're recovering from major surgeries, obviously Achilles, ACLs. They needed a pass rusher. Chop Robinson could come in and do that. And then I think if everybody gets back to full speed, Chop Robinson is the perfect alternative to everybody else you have there. Just a straight speed guy, still working on the technique. But I like that move for the Dolphins, even though you're probably going to put a little bit more on Chop Robinson's plate right out of the gate than maybe you should. The way the corners work, I like Quinyon Mitchell to Philly. And always Philly, rumored up to trade for a corner. They sit back. They do what Philly does. They still get their top corner in this class and good size, length, speed, all that good stuff. Jacksonville, obviously wide receiver was something that was going to have to happen for them. They get Brian Thomas Jr. I love it for Detroit. Just Pearsall, Leggett. My questions aren't that these players were selected. That is not my question by any means whatsoever. My question is just age. These are guys that Browns weren't going to be interested in anyway. So you want to take that gamble. So, but these players, both of them, Pearsall, Leggett, going to those respective teams, San Francisco and Carolina, this is it. That's most likely going to be their career with those teams, even if they make the full 5 years, because now you're going to be talking about 29 years old looking at second contracts, and it's just probably not going to work that way. And NFL's a little fluky like that. It's a little funny like that. We all know how that works. But we continue on here. Your latest Locked On Browns. Everybody stick around. We'll see what Andrew Berry can get to tonight. When you are hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is able to list things as far as a job perspective of qualifications, education, computer systems, all that type of stuff. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who are actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're not looking at all. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate all of you for making Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. If you are not part of the everyday crowd, you need to join the everyday crowd. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. It's always available. It's always free. So with these 32 selections being made, here essentially is what's left for the Cleveland Browns. Keeping in mind, we started pick 33 on Friday night. Cleveland Browns currently slated for 54. Could they move up? Could something be truly appealing that Andrew Berry spends some capital, maybe some future capital, to go up and get a player that he adores? Did somebody drop? Could find out tonight. But you go to the offensive tackle position. We certainly talked a lot about this position over the last weeks and months. Still available, and a lot of guys, you should know the names by now. Blake Fisher, Notre Dame, Roger Rosengarten out of University of Washington, Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU. You still have Kieran Amageji. Everyone seems to love the Yale kid. I'm not necessarily saying 54, but certainly a possibility there. Then we can go back, and now tight end position. We talked with Pete Smith. He was a big guy of Tavian Sanders at 54. I spoke of Ben Sinnott at 54. That was a move I like, and I think really, really could happen for the Cleveland Browns. Ben Sinnott is very athletic. He is in some ways even more athletic than David Njoku. David Njoku was a high school high jumper and had a vertical jump of 38 and a half. Well, Ben Sinnott did 40 inches. So people, let's not get confused. If you want, I'll draft Ben Sinnott all day long at 54. I'll slap a number 44 on him, pair him with David Njoku, and that passing game will be electric and just get cooking. It is a really good move, in my opinion, for the Cleveland Browns to draft Ben Sinnott at 54. Now, wide receiver position, 7 guys went in round 1, but you still have Adonai Mitchell there. A lot of people question just the production from Adonai Mitchell. Maybe question what happened at Georgia, which led him getting to Texas, but he's never truly had that monster breakout season. Ladd McConkey still available. There are questions that I've heard from some about Ladd McConkey and health, and it involves the back. It's one of the words you never want to hear as far as injury concerns is the back, but certainly one that's there. Keon Coleman, you got to stop teasing me like this. I would just look, you know where my college fandom is. I think Keon Coleman is a lot more athletic than people think. People looked at the 40 and got confused. He was the fastest guy running the gauntlet. Florida State was in a hole last year. They needed somebody to be their punt returner. It's not often you look at the 6'4", 215-pound wide receiver and say, well, why don't you go do it? Because normally you don't take somebody that is unathletic and you ask him to be the punt returner. He did that, had several key returns for the Seminoles last year on special teams. The 2 Washington kids, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, I think both these guys are capable of being 60 reception guys in the NFL once they get their feet wet, once they get established. Really, really good players. I'm not in the Troy Franklin bandwagon. I'm sorry, I have not been. I never will be. If he comes here, I will take him with open arms, and I pray that Troy Franklin absolutely proves me wrong. Running back position, they're all still available. Kind of like what I said. The question is, when are running backs going to start to come off the clock? We still have Brooks. We still have Trey Benson. Marshawn Lloyd still available. Jalen Wright, Blake Corum, you name it, running back wise. And of course, my guys, Audric Estime, and of course, Braylon Allen, the babies of this class, still available here on day 2. Now we're going to flip it up. You just go a little bit to the defensive side of the ball. Now, this one's probably a surprise. I don't know if not testing didn't help. Maybe the no testing led to questions of an injury. Johnny Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois. Now, I don't know if he's going to go another 21 selections because Johnny Newton to me screams like a guy that there are teams actively right now saying, what do I have to do to move up and correct this mistake that 32 selections were just made and Johnny Newton was not one of them. But hey, if he's somebody on the Browns' radar, he's there at 54. Johnny Newton, you come in. And we've talked about the future of the Cleveland Browns defensive tackle room, right? Your top 4 guys, 29, 30, 31, and 32 years old. Johnny Newton, 21 years old, comes in, and all of a sudden, that room now has a legitimate and sustainable future. Michael Hall, still available, player that I love. You guys know how much I'm a big fan of him. Mason Smith out of LSU, great player. Mekhi Wingo, if you want to get him a little bit later, he's the guy that could come in as well. The linebackers are all available, still there. Every one of them. You want to get weird if you're going to move Greg Newsome. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm going to need a nickel. Cooper DeJean still available. Sanistril from Michigan still available. Melton from Rutgers still available. These guys all project as probably the best nickel guys in this year's draft. My guy, DeCameron Richardson, still available if you got to create a hole by moving Gene Newsome or something of that nature. There is still a lot left to be had. All the linebackers are still on the board. Safeties are still on the board. Andrew Berry got lucky last night. The wide receivers went off. All guys that we thought Browns weren't going to get. 7 went off the board. 6 quarterbacks went off the board. That is 13 prospects right there out of 32. Right now, all these offensive tackles that went in round 1, these guys that are probably going to be day 1 starters. Browns maybe not looking for a day 1 starter. If one fell to them, sure, that'd be absolutely great to have them. But you're drafting offensive tackle number 4 for 2024. He could be offensive tackle 2 for 2025. So they're in range for an offensive tackle. They are in range for tight end. They're in range wide receiver. They are in range running back. They want to get crazy and go D tackle at 54. They have that luxury. Everybody we pretty much talked about and spent months talking about for the Cleveland Browns are going to be in the range for Andrew Berry to pounce. Does he stay at 54? Does he move up some? Does he drop back a little bit? Andrew Berry is in a great position. We trust him. He has done a fantastic job through 4 drafts with this franchise. He will get the job done tonight. He will deliver players for the Cleveland Browns. I am Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, you're a bunch of filthy animals, but you're my filthy animals, and I love you all to death. Join the filthy animals. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. The show is always free wherever you get your podcasts. Round 1 in the books. Day 2, Browns draft starts Friday. This has been your daily delivery of all things dog pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.